I want to say up in front of this video before I get it started, I will be talking about how that today I'm running nothing but unplated 124 grain Eggman ammunition, great ammunition. Go over, pick it up. But before anyone says, hey, you might have had a different experience today because you were running unplated ammunition 124 grain, I just want to say that I was having problems with this ammunition in the first two videos I did, okay? All of the problems I had, the majority of them was with this ammunition. And although, yes, I did run some 115 grain through it in my other two videos, it was very minimal, maybe 2-3 magazines at best. 80% of what I ran through it was 124 grain, unplated, Eggman ammunition. And yes, I was having problems with it as well. And I also had the majority of my problems with the 147 grain jacketed hollow point defensive round that I carry a lot. So let's get the video started. Thanks so much for checking it out. All right, everyone, it's your boy Genius out here at the range today with the LFA Apollo 11. You know of the issues that I had, not in the initial video, but the second one. And I also put up a video calling out LFA for some things that I found while cleaning it. I'll put a link up to that video, invite you to go over maybe before you finish watching this one and look at that video, check it out. Haven't heard from them yet, but I promised that I would run this thing again after I deburred it as best I could, got a lot of the burrs out of it, smoothed it out, polished a bunch of things, the breech face, the disconnector rail, things like that. It is extremely wet, as people said, you need to run it wet. Well, I don't typically like running a gun with this much oil in it. I have found that to be problematic in the past. Causes issues sometimes getting gummed up in the firing pin channel, in the firing pin itself. And it just, I don't know, but it's wet because it's what everybody said. Before I get started with the video, as always, want to make sure you know Jesus Christ is your Savior. If you don't know what that means, if you've never come to that realization that you needed a Savior, reach out to me in the comment section or gsquaredtactical@gmail.com. Be glad to have a conversation with you about that and share the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. But either way, so today I'm running nothing but I have the Prodigy mag, the Staccato mag, the factory mag, the Checkmate mag that came with it, and I also have the Thesis mag that came out of my Thesis DS 1911. And I'm going to run about, I don't know, maybe 100 rounds through it today. Want to see if the ejection pattern has changed any or if it's still erratic. Want to see if the slide is not as sluggish as it was before. I suspect it won't be, the way I polished and cleaned it up. And I want to also run the 147 grain that I was having quite a few issues with it going back into battery. Also want to see if the slide hangs up about 3/4 of the way back or if there's any issues with the grip safety. Just want to see if it will run without incident today. That is the objective. But again, overall, I'm underwhelmed with the gun at $1,000. But maybe with it having been cleaned up, it'll do a little better today. Again, 124 grain, not plated ammunition, and I'm going to run some 147. And that's just what I'm going to do. Not really going to talk anymore about the gun. I have several other videos up with the specs, features, all those things. I invite you to go over and check those out. Today we are simply going to shoot the gun. So definitely drove home a lot better than it did before I cleaned it up and deburred it. So let's just get right to shooting this thing and see what happens. I won't be able to tell until I watch the video back whether or not the ejection pattern changed any at all. I didn't see any of them flying out in front of me like I did before, so maybe, not sure. But now I have the Thesis magazine, which seems very much so like the same magazine. I'm going to drop it with the slide lock this time and see if it's got any sluggishness in it like it did before. So it is definitely driving home a lot better. We'll see if that changes as I shoot the gun and it gets dirtier, but it's definitely driving home a lot easier now. I attribute most of that to the overwhelming amount of coating that was on that disconnector rail and the burrs as well that was inside of the gun. So maybe, you know, again, I don't want the gun to malfunction. Either way, I'm going to try on this one to grip the gun really, really tight, because as I mentioned in the video where I was calling them out, talking about the things I found while I was cleaning it, I said I was able to grip the module enough that it seemed to affect the engagement of the grip safety and also pulling the trigger back. Okay, want to see if that happens. I'm gonna try to grip the module really, really tight on this round. So anyway, Tisa's magazine this time. So no problems. And you know, listen, I'm happy about that, because again, I bought this gun. It's my money that the Lord allowed me to make. I want it to function. And it is locking back on the mag. And in the other videos, as you know, very rarely did it lock back on the mag, but it is now. So I don't know what changed there. Don't know what I did to it, but it is locking back on the mag now. And now I have my staccato mag. It didn't lock back on it either. It locked back least of all on the staccato mag. So let's see what happens with that one. I'm gonna pull it from the rear. It is driving home really nicely now, so I'm happy about that. So it locked back on the staccato mag. Now, other people in other videos and even people in the comment section said that if they had one and they saw other videos, the Prodigy mag was the one that it would not lock back on. But surprisingly for me, the Prodigy mag is the only one it consistently did lock back on. So I didn't have any problems with the Prodigy mag. And I must say, and again, I don't think at all that it has anything to do with me having cleaned it, because again, I did oil the gun before I shot it the first time. Maybe I didn't wet it as much as it should have been wet, but I did oil the gun. I put a sufficient amount of oil in there, in my opinion, in comparison to other double stack 1911s that I've shot, okay? I thought the oil was sufficient. And I think the reason it is doing better is because of the efforts I put in to deburr the inside of the slide and get all of the snags and burrs off of it. And it was insane. It was absolutely insane. Again, I invite you to go over and watch the video I put up of what I found while I was cleaning the gun and calling out LFA. But it's definitely shooting more consistent now, in my opinion. I'm able to stay on target a lot easier than I was before. So let's shoot the Prodigy mag, and I think after this, it'll be 54 rounds if I'm not mistaken. Probably gonna, like I said, get it up to close to 100 of the 124, and then I'll put a magazine of the 147 through it after it's nice and I guess dirty after 100 rounds. Because the 147, the heavier grain seemed to be an issue with it not wanting to go back into battery, and we'll see if that still happens. I think most of the rounds are ejecting to the right of me. Again, I'm not going to be able to tell till I look back on video. So I hope the slight bit of tuning that I did to the extractor helped out with that. But again, not stuff that I should have to do on any gun, in my opinion. Forget about the fact that it's a $1,000 gun. I get so sick and tired of hearing those excuses. Well, it's an entry level 2011. Well, just because people charge $6,000 overpriced 2011s doesn't mean that for $1,000 I should not have something that runs consistently and is reliable and is not throwing rounds out in front of me while I'm shooting. It does seem to be better, but again, while I'm focusing on the red dot and focusing on the target, I can't hardly see it. Either way, I'm gonna get all 4 of these mags loaded back up again. I think that'll be slightly over 100 rounds, and then I'm gonna do the 147 and see what happens and wrap this thing up. But so far, it's definitely shooting a lot better. It has locked back on every single magazine every time, and I haven't had that issue where it's hanging up about 3/4 of the way back where it was before. When I was sitting here doing this, it was locking up about right there and it wouldn't go back forward. I think that it had something to do with the slide lock or takedown pin, whatever you calling it, and I think it had something to do with that. And if I held it like this and racked it, it was like that slide lock would work its way out to the point that it would allow it to catch up. It's not doing that now, so that's good. I'm happy with that. So I'm more happy with the gun than I was the first 2 times that I shot it. So either way, let's get loaded up and put some more rounds through this thing. I think that people think that I'm joking when I say how bad I am at math, but I was sitting over there, I believe I was saying 54 rounds. It's 74 rounds, okay? Like, I'm really, really bad at math, like super bad. I can't do math in my head. If I ain't got a calculator, I'm in bad shape. So instead of loading up 4 more magazines, I loaded up 2 17 rounders, the Checkmate and the Thesis magazine. And I also loaded up my Prodigy mag with the 147 jacketed hollow points that was having problems with it going fully back into battery when on the second video that I put up. And I'm not even going to shoot at the target. I'm going to try to watch because I'm curious about the injection pattern and what kind of difference I made by tuning it. So I'm not even going to shoot at the targets. I'm just going to shoot out into the woods here. And I'm going to try to watch the ejection pattern on this one. But after these 2 magazines, I believe it's going to be 108. And then I'm going to put the 20 rounds of the 147, which will make, what is that, 128. So it'll be 128 total. But pay no attention to the fact that I'm looking that direction because I'm trying to look at the ejection pattern and whether or not I made a difference. That's probably the weirdest thing you ever see. You're probably going to play that clip back 15 times and just laugh. But definitely, it was not shooting any of them forward, right? It was not throwing them towards the camera. It was not shooting it over that way. I mean, it was all over the place in those other videos that I done. There was some that seemed to be slightly tossed a little lower, and then some of them a little higher, but they all were consistently coming over this direction. I still think they were hitting the optic, but either way, definitely way more consistent after having tuned that extractor. So I'm happy about that as well. So let's get the Thesis mag in here, get back on target again. Be 108 rounds so far, no issues, locking back on the mag. Then we'll get the 147 in there and see what happens. All So far, so good with everything. Definitely a fun gun to shoot, you know, like my wife said, when it was functioning and there was no problems. I mean, this definitely was as she said, a smooth operator. Even it's still going home good, so I'm happy about it so far. So here's the 147 is what I had the biggest issue with it going back into battery. So I'm gonna slow down, shoot it a little bit slower, and let's see what happens. Stay on this one target. So it shot all of them, not a hint at, I didn't feel any sluggishness in the slide. Again, sometimes it's not until I watch the video back that I see things I was not able to see while shooting it. But it did lock back on every single magazine today, which is something it was not doing before. And I didn't feel any of that sluggishness in the slide that I felt during the initial two videos. So I definitely feel like, again, to me, please understand, I know I'm not a tactical guy. I know I'm not tatted up and ripped and don't have a six-pack. I got a keg. And so I'm not crawling around reconning on the ground, showcasing my expertise as far as how tactical I am. But keep in mind that I've been shooting guns or handling guns for 31 years. I have owned almost 500 firearms in my life, sold most of them, traded some of them. I probably currently have 110 or 15, something like that in my possession. And I've probably held twice that number. You know, I've probably held, it's insane probably. I've probably held in my hand, you know, 2 or 3,000 guns in my lifetime. So I'd like to think I'm a pretty good judge of quality and, you know, just build quality and all of that stuff. But also try to remember that I've took down enough guns, I've cleaned enough guns, and I've never saw a gun that had so many burrs on the inside of the rails. The frame, not so much. The frame seemed okay. There were burrs in the channel of the extractor and in the firing pin channel. I really was not, I'm not sure I was able to get those out. I did take a wire brush and tried to ream it out and hoping maybe it was just some small pieces left over from machining or something. I really wasn't sure. It did seem to help, but I don't feel confident enough to try to wring that out in any, you know, with a Dremel or anything like that. So I'm just going to leave that alone. But having adjusted or tuned, if you want to call it, the extractor, it definitely seems to be extracting better. And also, it's a lot smoother now. The slide is so much smoother, and I think a lot of it was getting that build up, that build up of the coating off of that disconnector rail and smoothing out that gouge that was in the disconnector valley there, or that pit or whatever it is. I think that and getting those burrs out of the slide and stuff really is what attributed to it running so much smoother and locking back on my mag and everything else. And again, listen, nobody should have to do that to their gun in order for it to run reliably. So just because it's running good now and I'm happy with it now does not mean overall I'm happy with the product or the company. And I still maintain to myself, do better. Do better. It took me, after I got it cleaned up, it took me about an hour to take my Dremel and get those burrs and smooth the rails, smooth everything inside of the gun, and, you know, tune the extractor, if that's what we want to call it. Definitely you can spend an hour for the people you served and protected before you opened your business and your company to do better for them. Either way, thanks so much for watching. Hit the thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe on this beautiful day that the Lord has made. Thanks so much again for watching, and to God only be the glory.